What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Sector for Nerds, and welcome to another episode of Star Wars The Clone Wars Retro Discussions. Today we're here to talk about Season 3, Episode 7, Assassin. This episode was directed by Kyle Dunleavy and written by Katie Lucas. The cookie for this episode: the future has many different paths. Choose wisely. I'm honestly surprised that it wasn't just always in motion is the future. Like, I felt like it was right there for you to use. Alright, you guys, but without any further ado, it's time we get into this episode. Intro guy, let us know what's going down. Take it away. Criminals captured. Jedi Master Plo Koon and Padawan Ahsoka Tano successfully thwarted an attempt on Mace Windu's life, killing bounty hunter Aurra Sing in the process. Since that time, young Ahsoka has grown strong in the ways of the Force. Now, after several harrowing adventures alongside her master, the two Jedi have returned to the temple on Coruscant to receive their next mission. Thank you, intro guy. I mean, it's a little weird that we're talking about this whole Mace Windu, attempt on his life or a Sing thing. I feel like that kind of happened a while ago. I feel like you would only be telling us that if, it's got something to do with this episode, of course. Every show will do that, you guys, where something will happen, like in a previous season, and then, they'll go a little bit without, anything involving that particular thing happening. And then in, a recap or whatever, they'll be like, oh, hey, remember this thing that happened? Yeah, just, keep it in the back of your mind. But also, let's, talk about this stuff, so we can kind of throw you off guard. But it also not being unexpected and, Mandalorian's done this. I've been watching through the original X-Men animated series. They've done that as well. By the way, great show. And the reason why I'm watching that show is because I want to be able to watch X-Men 97 at some point because I've heard about how good that show is. But I thought, okay, let me watch the original series first so I can get caught up with everything and I understand all the lore and everything. So I'm not, left asking a bunch of questions. Okay, but anyway, after all that, let's get into this episode. So Anakin is going to be sent off to Baelith to command the 3rd Legion. Meanwhile, Ahsoka has to stay on Coruscant and give her full report to the council. Presumably about the Mandalore stuff, right? But Ahsoka starts having these visions, and all of a sudden, Aurra pops up, and she's saying she will die, and there's nothing you can do about it. So it's okay, this is very vague. We don't know what's going on here. And then Ahsoka goes to chat with Yoda in that same room that Anakin and Yoda chat in for Revenge of the Sith, and very ironically, it's all about the same person. But then, she has a second set of visions, and that's where she sees that it is Padme. And so Ahsoka goes to have a chat with her. By the way, that hug between the two of them, between Padme and Ahsoka, I don't know, it's just so wholesome. I love seeing that. Anakin's wife, Anakin's Padawan, also basically his younger sister. There's a nice episode of Forces of Destiny where it basically tells the story Ahsoka figuring out that Anakin and Padme are a thing. It was really well done. But Padme's supposed to be leaving for Alderaan to go give a speech regarding refugees of the war. So Ahsoka says, look, let me come with you, Padme. Let me, I can't just stand by while there is a threat to your life that could be potentially going on here. So they leave together for Alderaan, and they're playing Dejuric. It's now, I think, the second time that we've seen Dejuric in this show, because we saw Rex and Cut playing it in Season 2. I'm not gonna lie, that Aurra jump scare, the first time watching it, I bit hard at that. And I thought too, oh my god, she's on the ship. Part of me felt okay, this is probably part of the vision or whatever, but I did think that she was somewhere on board the ship waiting to kill Padme. So when Ahsoka runs out of her room and is yelling the assassin's inside, I'm yep, nope, okay, yep, we gotta do something, guys, watch out, she's coming. But it ends up being a false alarm. And we know it's a false alarm. So yeah, you guys, we get to see Alderaan in this episode, which is pretty cool. Really the only time before this that we had seen Alderaan is in Revenge of the Sith. And then I have to think, you guys, SWTOR came in 2011, right? So I guess this would have been around that time. But I know that, when you play Star Wars The Old Republic, one of the planets that you go to repeatedly in that game, depending on the characters that you're playing as, is Alderaan. And there's a lot of, great lore in there, too, and stuff. If you guys are ever looking for, a good way to like obtain more Star Wars knowledge. Like, let's say if you're not a book fan, if you don't like reading, like I don't really like reading, if you don't necessarily like reading comic books either, or books, whatever, go play the SWTOR game. It has a lot of lore in that game about Star Wars and about all the different planets and tribes of different people. Like, it's very cool. It is one of my favorite Star Wars games for that reason, even though the gameplay gets very repetitive. All right, I'm getting off topic here. Back on track. What I love so much when they get to Alderaan is if you listen to the music that they're playing, they're basically playing Leia's theme, which I thought was amazing. I don't know why, but like, the older I've gotten, the more emotional Leia's theme gets for me. Maybe it's nostalgia, maybe it's the fact that Carrie Fisher is no longer with us, I don't know. But Ahsoka keeps having more visions. The more that she has, the more things become clear. Like, she starts seeing crowds of people, she sees rooms, she sees Aurra taking the shot. And so Ahsoka goes to the room that this all is going to go down in. And it's very good for the audience as well to be seeing these things so we have an understanding of what Ahsoka understands. Unfortunately, Ahsoka is not able to stop the attempt on Padme's life. Aurra does take the shot, but where Ahsoka does come into play is she's able to use the Force on Aurra right before she takes the shot. So enough to where she was probably, like, she had the sniper aimed at her head. It was pushed more so to where the shot hit her in the shoulder. As the medical droid said, it was only a flesh wound. But it also right here confirms that Aurra Sing is still alive. Because at this point, like, we're seeing, like, okay, we see all these visions, but, like, is any of this going to be real? Like, what's going to happen? And one of the things that I think is interesting about this, one of the things that I wish they would have really played off of more, but they didn't really do, was this idea that Ahsoka had felt guilty at the end of season 2 when she thought that Aurra had died. Because remember, she had just got done telling Boba Fett, I'm not a murderer. And then, 5 minutes later, she kills Aurra Sing. And like I said back at that time too, like, I wish it was one of those moments I could just like run up to her and hug her and just like let her know, like, no, that's not your fault. Don't do that to yourself. I thought that would have played into more of an effect here, but I guess not. Even Aurra didn't really have a grudge with Ahsoka when they confront each other. It's for her, it's just about her next job. Which, I mean, fair enough.
Surprised you're back to work so soon.
Well, a girl's gotta make a living.
But Ahsoka's got a plan. And it's interesting because this is like the one thing in the episode that the audience, like, we don't really know what's happening. We see Aurra moving around. She's got like a evil smile on her face, like kind of makes you think like, okay, well, she's on to whatever's going on here. But we don't know, like, okay, is that Padme under the hood? Is it not her? If it's not her, where is Padme? And we see that, okay, Padme's in the room that she was being attended to. Ahsoka realizes Aurra's not in the room, and she figures out that Aurra's figured it out. She hightails it back to the quarters, and right before Aurra is able to take the shot with her pistol, Ahsoka blocks it and yanks her out of the vent via the Force. And Aurra immediately recognizes her, like, I remember you. You left me for dead, but luckily Hondo pulled me out of the wreckage. Shout out to Hondo.
I smell profit!
So Padme asks Aurra, why are you doing this? Killing me isn't going to stop the relief effort. And Aura's just like, girl, honey, this ain't about your cause. This is about revenge. My employer wants to get even with you. Simple as that. And meanwhile, as she's saying this, you see Padme pull a blaster from her sling. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Stuff's about to go down.
Why are you doing this? Killing me will not stop the relief effort.
Honey, this isn't about your cause. This is about revenge. My employer wants to get even with you. Simple as that.
Who hired you?
Enough talk. Time to see what you're made of, kid.
And it's like, okay, Ahsoka versus Aurra, round 2. Here we go. Aurra beats her in about 5 seconds. Which I think makes sense, guys. Yes, Ahsoka has grown stronger with the Force, as intro guy said at the beginning of this. But Aurra Sing is still Aurra Sing. She's one of the most deadly bounty hunters in the galaxy. Her reputation precedes her. So it makes sense that Ahsoka ain't prepared for that fight yet. She's still a Padawan. She's still very young. Aura's been at this a while. And remember the last time that those two encountered each other, Plo Koon was there to help her. She don't have that now. But you know what she does have? Padme with a blaster. Because Aurra's sitting there laughing like, ha ha ha, I gotcha. And then Ahsoka just falls to the ground, and immediately Padme points the blaster directly at Aurra and stuns her. And I love it. Padme goes to ask Ahsoka if she's alright, and Ahsoka just goes, nice shot. So they end up capturing Aurra. Good guys win again. But they go back to Coruscant, and Anakin and Yoda are there. Anakin asks Padme if she's alright. I would also like to remind you that Ahsoka also got shot as well. Anakin, guess it's the hierarchy of who does Anakin care about more. I mean, obviously I think Padme would probably be at the top of his list, no question. But I mean, come on, like, Ahsoka is still high on that list. Let's not forget about her. And Yoda says, all right, think clearly, Padawan, because we still don't know, like, all right, who hired Aurra? And Yoda says, what do you see, Padawan? I see shapes, they're large, I hear laughter, really bizarre laughter, and I see purple, a color purple. I wish I would have pieced this together when I was 10. Because, like, I listen to it now and I laugh about it and be like, yeah, who could that be? But, I mean, I was dumb little kid. And Ahsoka's like, look, I don't know what any of this means. None of it is familiar to me. And Padme goes, well, it is familiar to me. I've been thinking about it. And Aurra told me that she was hired to take revenge for something that I did. And Anakin's like, well, that could have been a lot of people. Which, yeah, good point. I was initially thinking Newt Gunray, because, like, Newt Gunray is, like, at the, you know, number one person that probably Padme is, like, Padme's biggest enemy. But it wasn't. And Padme's like, yeah, you're right, it could have been a lot of people. But with Ahsoka's added details, I know someone who fits the description. Okay, here we go. Here's like my favorite part of the episode. All right, you guys have to understand. Star Wars The Clone Wars is responsible for giving us multiple national treasures. The number one of which is Hondo. And we haven't even scratched the surface yet about why he's a national treasure. Season 2 gave us a bit, but like, just wait till we get to Season 5, because that is like everything. Another national treasure is Terra Sinube, that I only just realized was a national treasure watching through this show again with you guys. But then another national treasure of this show is Ziro the Hutt, who of course is the person that's responsible.
Ziro.
Oh, you must be Anakin Skywalker.
Oh, so you guys know each other. Interesting. And Anakin goes, have you ever met my Padawan, Ahsoka Tano? And Ziro just laughs and is like, Padawan? And he's just giggling. And I'm like, what?
Padawan.
Ziro, what are you talking about, bro? And then Ahsoka's like, I believe you have a grudge against Senator Amidala. And Zero's just like, what makes you say something so utterly ridiculous, youngling? Like, he's getting so triggered by the fact that he's talking to this Padawan, to this youngling.
And what makes you say something so utterly ridiculous, youngling?
Oh my gosh, I don't know why I find this so funny. Ahsoka's like, we got Aurra Sing in custody. She told us everything. And Zero's like, but she told you what? I was waiting for him to go like, oh, the harsh allegations that are being brought up against me. This is insane. I deny all of this. But instead, Zero's just like, I knew I should have hired someone better. Uh-oh.
But she told you what? Impossible. I should have hired someone better. Oh.
Like his thoughts were just thinking out loud. You ever have that moment where you just think something out loud that you shouldn't have said, but it just comes out and you're like, uh-oh, this is gonna get me in trouble. That's what happened to Ziro here. And Ziro starts complaining like, can't you see the conditions I'm living in? Ahsoka's like, well, on that little confession, Ziro, you have officially failed. And Zero's like, you'll never get away with this. You have no idea what I'm capable of. And they like back out on a shot and show like all these different cells. By the way, sitting right next to Ziro, like in a cell next to Zero's, is Poggle the Lesser. Now at the time, the biggest thing that also confused me was, wait a second, but I saw Cad Bane get Ziro the Hutt out of prison, and then I start piecing it together. Oh, this is another one of them things told out of order, isn't it? At that point, too, I was so confused on the Star Wars timeline, on the Clone Wars timeline, and I think it's only gonna kind of get worse in the next 2 episodes as well. Now, obviously, like, looking at it now, I'm like, okay, I can kind of piece this together and this together, but the only really big problem, plot-wise anyway, is the fact that if the Hostage Crisis episode takes place after this episode, they never really told us how Aurra Sing was able to get out of prison. But I guess that's what happened when you tell stories out of order like this. Sometimes things are just bound to get lost in the shuffle. Here's the good news. By the time we get like midway through season 3, from like that point on to towards like the end of this show to like season 7, every one of the episodes is basically told in chronological order. So no more of this like bouncing around stuff. But yeah, also, are we not gonna like figure out, okay, well, if Ziro was able to hire someone to kill Padme, how was he able to do that in prison? Do they get like the one phone call thing, and like Ziro used his phone call to call Aurra Sing and be like, hey, kill Padme and I'll reward you? Well, again, in a couple episodes time with a little bit of foreshadowing, it ain't gonna matter anyway. But yeah, you guys, Ziro's funny, Ziro's great. And that basically concludes our episode for today. This was a fun little standalone episode, you know, showing off again, like it's another Ahsoka episode, showing how much stronger she's becoming in the Force. The fact that, you know, I mean, we've seen her have so many firsts in this season, using a mind trick for the first time, having visions for the first time. We're about to start going places, folks. We're getting so close to like strapping this show into a whole nother gear, and it is getting to that point, folks. We're not there yet, but we are so damn close. So you guys, that concludes our episode of Star Wars The Clone Wars retro discussions for this week. Next week, you guys, we are going to be talking about Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 3, Episode 8. I believe it's called Evil Plans. It's an episode with Cad Bane. It's also a C-3PO and R2-D2 episode as well. Thank you all so much for watching. Like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.
Cad Bane at your service. I'll take on any job for the right price.